What's up, people? Today I've got a short video for you about the similarities between two of my favorite hobbies, Gunpla and Minis. I know it seems like an obvious comparison to make, but I know that a lot of you watching have definitely at least tried out both flavors of hobby, and I want to talk about it. During this video, I'll be painting another mech for the tabletop game Gamma Wolves in the same style that I did with my Gouf back in April, because the game seems pretty relevant to today's topic of discussion. Also, make sure you watch to the end of the video for some great crossover projects from some other talented content creators. With all that being said, let's get started. This Master Grade Heavyarms was actually the first Master Grade kit that I ever customized and painted. It was a fun project and I learned a lot because I definitely made a decent amount of mistakes with the painting. And of course, in true Millennial Model Mayhem fashion, it's got a bad coat of matte varnish.
Pathetic!
If you're wondering where his big gun and leg missiles went, they're currently being used on a different kitbash that's in Project Purgatory. Now, since this is a shorter video, off camera I'm gonna do a little custom building and apply some base coats. And here he is in his kitbashed glory. On the head I just removed the antennas because one of them was already broken. Then I switched his shield to the other arm and added the Gatling gun from the Gouf custom. And for his backpack, I just had to add some pieces to the sides to cover up holes. Then I flipped the legs around and covered up the holes the leg missiles left with some really basic pla plating. And the last bit of prep I did was outline the pattern for the base. As I said before, the techniques I'm going to use in this video are the same ones I used on my Gouf, so if you want to see me go into them in full detail, you should definitely watch that video. And just like in that video, we're going to paint the base with this nice teal gradient along with the aid of our friend Glaze Medium. Now sit back and relax as I paint and talk about hobby crossover. I think Gunpla and Minis are basically two flavors of the same thing. I mostly used metal files on a hobby knife to clean up my minis before painting, but when I got into Gunpla, I needed to use higher grit sanding sponges to get a better finish. And turns out those sanding sponges are also useful on plastic minis as well. Because I started as a mini painter, I'm very comfortable using a brush to paint small details on a Gunpla, but I'm not as comfortable or confident in using an airbrush and masking details. It is growing on me though, don't worry. I think that there are definitely Gunpla builders who feel the opposite of me and would rather airbrush than hand paint. When I started off painting my first Gunpla, I used the same acrylics that I used with my minis because I didn't realize how much better lacquer and enamel paints were for durability. Now I have a better understanding of the different types of paints and what their strengths and weaknesses are. I could say that my mini painting skills have helped me with painting the pilot figures that come with some kits, but I still haven't painted any of mine. How embarrassing. Does anyone else wish they still made the 3-inch figures that used to come with old Master Grades? Now that the base and all its tasty gradients have been finished, it's time to glue Heavyarms down and get to work on all that green armor. Instead of the blue gradient that I used on my Gouf, we're gonna use P3 Crix Bane base followed by Vallejo Game Color Sick and Livery Green. Back to talking about crossovers, we've also got to consider the fact that Bandai and Games Workshop have collaborated before with those Space Marine action figures, and they're each pretty much the biggest company in their respective niches. And just look at that Gundam Artifact series that launched this year. They look really suited to be painted like minis, and I'm eager to get my hands on some. Official Gundam tabletop game collaboration on the way? Only time will tell. Like all hobbies, they both provide their own unique opportunities, challenges, and strengths. I think mixing the two together has definitely leveled up my hobby skills. But there are things I still like and dislike about both, so being able to switch between Gunpla and Minis is great in preventing burnout. Just ask Don Serratos, he's an expert in Gunpla Minis crossover. I started as a mini painter, but Gunpla has quickly risen to become one of my main passions. Now I try to maintain a balance of 50-50, but really I just follow the hobby muse and work on whatever is currently inspiring me. I used to think of Gunpla as a hobby mainly for display purposes like model airplanes, and that minis were exclusively meant for use in tabletop games, But that's obviously changed a lot now with the proliferation of high-quality mini painters and growing respect for the art form, as well as games like Gamma Wolves that can bring a gaming aspect to Gunpla. Speaking of Gamma Wolves, I'm almost finished Heavyarms. For the glowing effects, I didn't want to use the same orange that I did with the Gouf, so I used the Arcane and Meridius blue from the base along with a little white mixed in. For the metallic details, I used Secret Weapon Dark Iron for the base, then dry brushed Vallejo Game Color Gunmetal and finished with a minor edge highlight of model color silver on the prominent details. Thanks to Gamma Wolves, I can use these model kits to scratch my Wargaming itch and say stuff like, "This Graze is a medium frame costing 125 materiel and is equipped with 2 lasers, a melee weapon, a chaff launcher, and heatsink, bringing its total weight value to 20.
This Gouf is a jet upgraded medium frame costing 95 material and is equipped with an energy melee weapon, rocket pack, and ballistic shield, bringing its weight value to 19.
I haven't figured out the stats for Heavyarms yet, but I know it's going to be the leader of a separate crew that will fight against the Grays and Gouf's crew. Rest assured, one day all of this will be fully fleshed out with pilot names and everything. I'd say that I successfully salvaged this old Heavyarms project. Like with all my Gamma Wolves mechs so far, I think my gradients are a bit on the messier side due to me really speeding through the painting, but that's fine with me because I want to keep practicing and do a few more of these before I make one really fancy mech and I'll put maximum effort into it. There you go, I've salvaged one of my old projects, added another mech to my Gamma Wolves roster, and also shared my thoughts on Gunpla versus minis. If you're into Gunpla and you've never painted a mini before, or if you're into minis and you've never built a Gunpla before, I encourage you to branch out and diversify your hobbies. Just take a look at these mini painters and see what they've brought to the world of Gunpla. Fox Hope Painting and Gaming has brought us this cool camouflaged Jesta, along with a Wargaming style base and some cool terrain. Then we've got Tabletop KARNAGE, who's printed some cool 3D accessories for his Bugu, as well as added some weathering. Then from Vivid Mini Mods, we've got this absolutely killer looking Guitar Batos. And then Rising Ape Minis has painted his Tau battlesuit in Gundam colors, as well as this really cool looking hand-painted background. I also know that he did some crossover collaboration with PLAMO Therapist, so you should definitely check out those videos as well. Thank you very much for checking out my video. Comment below with your own thoughts and stories about Gunpla and Minis crossover, and of course don't forget to annihilate those like, subscribe, bell, and share buttons.
What about a crossover with the nail art? That could be fun.
Not yet, Blue Parappa. I don't know if the internet's ready for that video yet.
Are you?
Comment if you want a crossover with nail art.
If you enjoyed and want to support my content, please consider becoming a patron. That's all for this video, so I'll see you again soon with more model mayhem.
Scott, don't think I've forgotten about that Zaku 2 in your backlog.